Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is part 3, the Crusades, part 1, episode 3. This is Dr. Roy, and I'm not going to tell you that when I put in the Crusades, Dr. Roy, I actually spelled it Dr. R-O-P. The P and the Y aren't anywhere near each other. In fact, there are 4 keys between them. I have to go O, like R-O-Y, but I went R-O-P because, okay. Just thought I'd share some stupidity with you, and we're going to get into the video. You got to be careful. There's a bird that's like peeking into your window right now.
Anyway,
caught you off guard.
but it's okay. We keep our electric grid functioning just as well as Egypt does. So that's amazing. It's fun living in a third world country again. You know what I mean? It's very familiar. Like I go to Mexico in the summer, so I have electricity. Also, by the way, it's cooler. Push that through your brain. I still can't get over that. I'm very confused about that. So I've derailed myself. Why did I go down that path? So here's what happened. And if I was taught, we don't know why the Romans collapsed, but we do know why the Romans collapsed. And the reason we know why the Romans collapsed is because I can actually tell you the exact day the Romans collapsed. I don't know what it's telling me.
It was Tuesday.
Actually, it's telling me you need to go. The Romans collapsed on May 29, 1453.
Hold on. May 29th, 1493. I'm doing it. Oh no. Okay. May 29th. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. Okay, so I don't know if this is right. I know you're saying, why are you doing this, Chris? Just because it makes me funny. It makes me funny. It makes me laugh. May 29th, 1493. It says here it was a Monday. That's pretty close. I said Tuesday. The only problem is, it was on another page. It says May 20th, 1493 was on a Monday. So you can't have a Monday and then 9 days later also be on a Monday. So I got 7 days. So I don't know which one is right, but we're just going to say I was not.
The reason why the Romans collapsed on May 20, you thought I was kidding. The reason why the Romans collapsed on May 29, 1453, and I can tell you exactly.
1453. Damn me. Okay, nope, we're doing it again. I know you don't want to do this, but we're doing it. I don't care. Okay, it says Sunday, May 20th. Monday was the 21st. Tuesday was the 22nd. 7 days later would be Tuesday, May 29th, 1453. Kris with the guess. Oh my good, there's a spider right there. And now I don't see him. Did he? Oh, no, he's right there. I said, you know what? I shouldn't even, the rest of the video should just be a good job, Kris. You're amazing. You know what? Go ahead. I'll wait. I said Tuesday. It was Tuesday. This is where all of you should be asking me for lotto numbers, or I'm crossing my leg right now because I feel okay, look, it was a lucky guess, all right? Look, I'm moving on.
Why? Is because an Ottoman army captured the last Roman capital, Constantinople. Constantinople was the last piece of Roman real estate. In other words, there's no mystery why the Romans fell apart, the Roman Empire fell apart. It fell apart because it was conquered. And we know the exact moment it was conquered. In other words, there's no...
It was 11:53 a.m. I'm not going to check, though, because I know that's wrong.
reason to have doubt about the date that the Roman Empire fell. Here's what happened. There was a guy named Hieronymus Wolff. About 100 years after the Roman Empire fell, and I want to say 100 years, but that's probably wrong, somewhere around 1550, right? The Roman Empire fell 1453. He decided he was going to rewrite history on purpose and tell a really big lie on purpose. He had two goals. One, he wanted to divorce the Roman Empire from its ignominious defeat at the hands of the Muslims. The Roman Empire was a Christian empire. He was a Christian, he was a German, and he hated the idea that Muslims had conquered the Roman Empire, that the Roman Empire had been defeated by Ottoman Turks. And so he decided he was going to move the date of the conquest of the Roman Empire to 100 years earlier, lie to everybody, and people would accept the lie because it would divorce the end of the Roman Empire from the Muslims. And then the second goal was, in 476, Odovaker, the German, declared himself the king of Italy. Now, to be clear, he left Italy in the Roman Empire. He didn't separate Italy from the Roman Empire. So Italy just became, instead of a set of provinces, it became one kingdom with Odovaker, the ruler, who sent taxes to Emperor Zeno and flew a Roman flag. It's weird, but it also means Italy is still in the Roman Empire. But because Odovaker was a German, then Hieronymus Wolff could say, the Germans took out the Roman Empire. But it's not true, it's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. So by the time we get to the Crusades, there's a Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire is playing a major role. And the reason the Roman Empire is playing a major role is it's been in decline for a long time. When I say the Roman Empire fell in 1453, you have to remember that's after 2,200 years. The Romans aren't quite as long as the Egyptians in terms of the length of their history. Right, when the Romans conquered Egypt in 31 BC, Egypt was a 4,500-year-old civilization. Right? It's not quite on that scale, but it's really close. It's half that scale. And Rome had been in decline since the 200s. In other words, Rome had been on its way out for 13 centuries. So for more than half of the length of time that Rome had been around, it was struggling to survive. That's what you call tenacity, resilience. That's incredible. Who survives barely making it for that long? At one point, they actually do get conquered. And they manage to put themselves back together and reconstitute themselves and just keep going. They break up on multiple occasions. Zenobia is my favorite. There was a woman who led a rebellion in Syria, and she captured Syria, Turkey, Palestine, and Egypt, and she made her own little empire. They were too sexist to let a woman rule, so she made her like 6-year-old son the actual emperor, but she ruled in his name. His name was Wabalathus. Wabalathus. Isn't that a cool name? Anyway, and by the way, Palmyra was her capital. So sort of a strange twist, right? She was like in the middle of Syria, made her capital there. Don't worry, the Romans killed her. Something like that's not going to be allowed. And they put the empire back together, and then it fell apart. And it was like an accordion. Just the Arabs come, tear them up. The Germans tear them up. It's a mess. The Huns tear them up. The Bulgarians tear them up. It's just wave after wave until they finally just go down once and for all in 1453. But by the time the story of the Crusades is happening, the Romans are desperately trying to hold on to what is today Turkey. I'm going to use Anatolia just because I think it makes it a little bit less confusing, at least in my brain. Anatolia was the name at the time. Turkey is the name today because the Turks have it, right? And they've named it after themselves. Another actor I want to introduce might sound strange. It's the Vikings. I'm going to tell you something really strange. The Vikings are one of the reasons why the Crusades happened. Not weird? You're like, wait, why? So, work with me here on this one, because it's kind of strange. So the Vikings were Germans. They were the Germans who settled Scandinavia. Scandinavia was kind of like the worst piece of real estate in Europe at the time. Today, obviously, it's like heaven, but back then, it was the garbage piece that nobody wanted to go to. In other words, the people who became the Vikings, they never called themselves Viking. Viking is a term we've retroactively put on top of them, like the term Byzantine that Hieronymus Wolff came up with for the Roman Empire's last 1,000 years. 977 years, for those of you who want it to be more precise. There's no such thing as a Byzantine Empire. The Vikings, I'm going to use the term Viking anyway, though. The Vikings got stuck with this piece of real estate where you really couldn't grow a crop. So pretty much all you could do was raise cattle and go fishing. And at some point, their population had reached a threshold. They had sort of reached the carrying capacity of cheese rolls and dried fish. And when that happened, they had no choice but to start looking for alternatives. And they took two approaches, by the way. One approach the Vikings did was they set out to start trading. They thought, you know what, we can fix our problem if we can do trade because we'll have the money to buy the food that we need.
Okay.
And the Eastern Vikings, the Swedes, got so into this, they actually started trying to figure out where they could go to, and they started reading their sagas. This is the 8th century. They're not reading their sagas, they were oral histories. They were listening to their sagas. And the sagas told the Vikings that the place the Germans were from was Iran. By the way, Kerman Iran, which is where we get the word German, because G and K, when languages change over time, are interchangeable. So, Kerman, German. We say German because we pronounce it like a French person would. But a German says German, right? Like, so if you're saying the study of Germanic studies, it's Germanismus. Because they don't say it the way a French person would.
So the name German was a city in Iran? It's little things like that that excite me. Because it's such an interesting tidbit of information that just I don't know. It just makes me giddy. Because how many people know that? I mean, he does. And now everyone in that classroom knows. And people who are watching the video know. That's so cool. I love things like that.
So the sagas tell the Vikings, you're originally from Persia, so the Swedes go, wow, that's an idea. Let's go. Let's see what we can find. And so what they would do is they would go to what is today Latvia. They would take their long ships up the Dvina River. They'd go as far inland as you could get, pretty close to the city of Rzhev. They would pull their ships out of the water, fully loaded, because they have to carry their supplies. They can't leave their supplies behind. So they would carry these fully loaded ships overland until they got to the Volga River. I mean, that's a pretty manly, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they've got their armor and their weapons, and they're hauling these. I want to go backwards in time just to see this. You know there was a lot of grunting. And then they put the ship in the Volga River, and they sailed the Volga River all the way to the Caspian Sea, and they went down the Caspian Sea to the Persian coast, and they're like, hi. And the Arabs had just conquered Persia a couple of centuries earlier. And they were walking around Persia going, what is all this? You have modern agriculture and modern medicine, and you're doing philosophy, and you've invented zero, and you're doing algebra. And the Vikings are like, we don't even have a written language. We shouldn't have left, should we? We could have had this. And they began trading. Now, to supplement their trading on that long trade route, they would also raid. And they would attack the Slavic populations along the way, and they would take some for slaves, and then they would sell them into the slave markets, make a little bit of extra coin. So maybe full disclosure, I'm a quarter Swedish. So if there's a little bit too much admiration on my part, it's just ugly nationalism. The Western Vikings started raiding England. And then they started expanding where they raided. And before you knew it, they were just raiding all of Northern and Western Europe. And in the process, they start to get some amazing victories. So, you know, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling. That's because it did. That's because my ancestors took out London Bridge. That song is based on a real event. Isn't that cool? I think it is. And so, the Vikings actually end up conquering places like England. They get multiple kings of England. Canute the Great, of course, the most famous. But there's also Svein Forkbeard. Isn't that a cool name? Svein Forkbeard. And they end up ruling this empire that stretches across Scandinavia and England. And they were doing all right for themselves. And they got their eyes on Paris. And they thought, you know what, let's go take France. I mean, why not? We've got Latvia and Estonia and Finland and Ukraine, right? Because the Vikings, eventually the Ukrainian nobles couldn't figure out how to rule their lands, so they started hiring Viking mercenaries. The group of Viking mercenaries they hired were the Rus, R-U-S. And the Rus eventually created Kievan Rus because they realized they were the only armed guys and they didn't know why they were taking orders from anybody. And they just took over, and that's how Russia was founded. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, they almost got Paris. Long story short, they were on the island. They were battering down doors. They were scaling the walls. They almost got Paris. It was so close. And so after they failed to get Paris, the French came out and they went, okay, that was too close. You almost got us. We don't think if you get a second shot, we don't think we're making it. So what do? We're not surrendering. We're not giving you Paris. We're gonna move Paris. There you go. Make you fight for it if you try to get it again. But I was close. We really don't want you to try again. We're gonna meet you somewhere. And they make a deal with a guy named Rollo. And the deal is northern France. They give Rollo northern France. Now, the Vikings, I told you, weren't called Vikings. They were called the Northmen, or, depending on your language, Norsemen, or Nordmen, or Normans. And so the Vikings named northern France after themselves. They called it Normandy. And they began ruling it, but they had a problem. And that was that the French peasants wouldn't learn German. They wouldn't learn to speak the dialects of German that the Vikings were speaking. They kept insisting on speaking French. And so the Norman nobility, Rollo, by the way, got Normandy in 911. The Norman nobility now has to learn French so that when they're abusing their peasants, the peasants understand the abuse, right? It doesn't help to shout at a peasant and then they don't understand you. You need them to understand, so they learn French. And what that does then is it sets us up for a really strange set of events. Somebody gets a great idea just a few decades later, 999, so 911 to 999, so 88 years later, to hire Norman mercenaries in southern Italy. And so Norman mercenaries start to travel from northern France all the way to southern Italy, and they're being used by everybody. They're being used by the Romans, who are trying to hold on to southern Italy. They had it, they're losing it, they're trying to get it back. There's the Roman emperor at the time is a guy named Basil II. You want to laugh, but he was one of the greatest Roman emperors of the time period. And he went on a conquering spree, and he starts carving up territory that the Romans had lost, and he's putting it back in, including taking lands, Muslim lands. He actually brings the Roman Empire back to Syria, and he captures Antioch and the northern end of Syria. The part of Syria that today is in Turkey is basically what he recaptured. So when the Ottoman Empire broke up, the Europeans showed up with a crayon and a napkin, and they just began drawing borders. And you look at the border between Saudi Arabia and Jordan, or Jordan and Iraq, and you're like, why'd you do that? And they sneezed or something. Somebody got bumped and an extra wiggle line popped up.
All right, I'm gonna pause it there. I did know about the Vikings, the Normans, and Normandy. And I think I found that out on his last video. Well, he was the one who told me, not in person. I think it was the last video I did about how, was it the Islam saved the Western world? Was that? Did he? I don't remember. But I swore he told me. He taught me that. Okay. I'm eating peanuts because I skipped lunch. So I apologize. Peanuts in the shell, salted. Oh, delicious. Okay. So I'm going to end this here. I will come back with part 4. And there's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. You can request something. It moves to the top of the list. You can request something without donating. It's okay. It still get done. Just takes a little bit more time. You can subscribe to the channel. Give a thumbs up. That helps. If you don't want to donate, it helps just as much. It helps with the YouTube algorithm and all the whatever. There's a bell there. Click that. Whatever that does. My computer just froze, but now I'm back. And last but not least, if you want to... I just saw that. Little glitch. Last but not least, if you want to give a thumbs down, I don't know if anybody knows the movie Good Burger 2 just came out. I have not seen it. But YouTube, in cooperation with me, we're opening up a restaurant, and we serve snot burgers. It's not, what did I say snot boogers? Yes, snot boogers. And it's a burger made completely of snot and boogers. When I say it like that, it doesn't sound as bad, because we do season it up. We season it up with throat phlegm. So you'll enjoy. You are not... You don't eat it at your pace. You eat it at what we tell you to. We just put it right to your face, and then we slam it in, and then we make you chew. We put duct tape over your mouth. We pinch your nose. And we tell you the faster you swallow, you can breathe again. And people are like... And then... It's fun. So you don't want that to happen to you. So just, don't do that. Have a good day. Have a good night.